Live from my girlfriend's couch, it's the one and only Johnny. Hooray! I forget who the hell even this is a reply video for. I think it's a British Fest. I think their Q&A was talking about the top talkers in the wrestling business. Yeah, so I'm gonna give myself a couple of seconds here to think. But before I get into my list, and I don't really need to justify why to anybody because all my picks are relatively safe. But for the the goodness of my heart, I want to recommend to any younger fans that if they don't know who the hell these people are that I'm talking about, that they go back and watch them. Because if they don't, then they really don't have any basis for who would be a good talker or not. And I want to take it back, kind of get the idea and the ball rolling that being a good talker in wrestling doesn't necessarily mean that you ever really climbed in the ring and took care of business as a wrestler yourself. There's plenty of people over the years that have been managers that have been phenomenal talkers and have gotten talent over well and beyond what they ever could have done on their own. And that's really the point of them. And I think in this day and age, it's really sad that you can find, a locker room full of big, muscular dudes, right? But they have no promo skills because all the shit, that WWE wants to put out is essentially scripted, except for like 2 or 3 people that are allowed to go out there and actually, do what they've practiced. But I mean, you can see it nowadays. And even with some of the guys that are supposed to be the best talkers, like the commentary team, it's all lukewarm, half-assed, and it's not just WWE's fault. I mean, even if you're watching TNA, the Taz and Tenay they're 2 of the worst they're 2 of the worst perpetrators of this offense that you can even, call upon out here. Especially since late 2010, early 2011 until now, the trend in the commentary has been really god-awful, if you ask me. I'm not really trying to create like a top 5 or a top 10 or a top whatever, but when I think about the people that really knew how to sell somebody or something or even themselves over on the microphone, I think a lot older than most people. Or maybe I don't. Maybe I'm just wrong and I've been looking at everybody that's like, John Cena is the best on the microphone ever. And I can't, have diarrhea all over Cena's case because when he first came into the business, for WWE, his promos weren't stellar, but they weren't like anything that you could just laugh off and go, ugh, this guy's terrible. Like it was something there to it. Like it was a mid-card level promo, and I think that you need that base at least to do anything in the business. Unless you're just a roided, jacked kind of fucking monster guy, and then you can have somebody just come in and talk for you, like like they did with Lesnar before he ever developed any competency on the mic. But even with him back after all this time, he was fucking awful. So, I think that if anything, that they need to really go back to the art of the manager to getting these people over, and they really just need to let these people cut promos now. It can't all be the 20-minute epic promo to start the show, the stare down, and then to fix up the main event kind of shit. Like, people should have backstage segments, interviews before matches, maybe a time to talk after a match or something, just to make it you more attached to the person and the character that's on the screen and on the TV. But when I think old people, not old people, but when I think older talent that, use the microphone well, I think of the commentary teams back in the day, to be honest, because, forgive me, this cell phone is going off 1,000 times. The girlfriend is going to be back soon. Trying not to let this go on for a million years. Um, this is when I get my downtime, guys. Uh, so, like Jesse Ventura and the chemistry that he had on the commentary team with guys like Vince McMahon and Gorilla Monsoon. And also, when Jesse Ventura was no longer doing the commentary in WWF, Bobby Heenan took over. And Bobby Heenan was a manager for the longest fucking time, and then became, part of the commentary team. Just his gifts and being able to do what he does best, just to get people over. It was incredible. So when I think about the best talkers, realistically, I think of the commentary team, because those are the people whose voices you heard the most throughout any length of the show or the pay-per-view or the television, whatever. And those are some of the most iconic voices in the sport, are Ventura and McMahon and Gorilla and Bobby Heenan. You could put Jim Ross up in the same category. I don't, because I try to stay away from always giving credit to the Attitude Era. But if you think about it too, though, like, yeah, Ross and the King in their prime, in their heyday, 98, 97, I don't know, around there, 96 maybe, through until about 2002, I want to say. And then for me, I think it started getting really weak. But they had a good number of years and a good run together. I wouldn't necessarily say best of all time based on that, but clearly it was a pleasure to have been, alive for that era and for that time period, and to have lived through it. But if I was to go back and pick my favorite announced team, it would be, for me, it's Heenan and Monsoon, just because of the comedy shtick back and forth that they always did, and them being, the best of friends and the closest, even outside of the microphone, just doing all these wacky things together and being entertaining. But if you look for it in terms of play-by-play babyface, and the over-the-top heel commentator, then you have to give it to McMahon and to Jesse the Body Ventura. And when McMahon kind of stopped and Gorilla took over, I think Ventura was a much better villain commentator than Heenan was. Heenan was a lot funnier, but Ventura really kind of made you notice what the heel was doing, or to credit them for what they were doing, tell you how smart they were. And to me, that's a lot of the best talkers right there, are those four. But if you want to talk about guys that really were able to sell themselves, I'll list a few names that I think are up there. One of them is Dusty Rhodes, obviously. Another would be the Macho Man Randy Savage. You could put The Rock and Steve Austin up there on the list too. Stone Cold. They're some of the best talkers of all time as well. It's a real shame that it's gone from where it was to where it is now, and that the announce team just seems like they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And that people just aren't even allowed to have promos anymore. That aren't at least, involved with Triple H and them getting buried or something. Like, if it's not Undertaker, you don't get a promo, It's just it's kind of sad. I think, if anything, to the people to look out for in the new generation would be probably a guy like Miz, who can hold his own on a microphone. I'm sure Punk will be around for a while. Yes, Cody Rhodes has been doing quite well on the microphone. In terms of TNA side of things, I look at Bobby Roode and I see somebody that's really awesome and cutting up the microphone. Kurt Angle has still got it, and he never lost it, in my opinion. He'll be doing promos awesome forever. Bully Ray and Austin Aries are guys that can go on the microphone back and forth, and to be fair, with this last run that Bully Ray has had as a singles competitor, and after they got rid of that stupid stuttering shit-ass gimmick he had in WWE, you know, that essentially made him look like a big stupid guy with no reason to be there except as a tag team guy. You know, when the attempt on the singles career went flat. You know, he's really come a long fucking way, you know, and he's really the best talker they have in TNA right now, if you ask me, is Bully Ray. So,
Woo!
those are just a few names of guys, and, you know, like I said, since you see the commentary team all the time in the beginning of the show, you hear them all throughout the show. Really, some of the best talkers in history have been the commentary team, whose job it was to talk up the fucking match. And it only makes sense to me that you go back and you review your history. And that's the only way that these guys are going to get better, is if they study the shit from the past. It's not just a bunch of relics that look pretty in a museum or, you know, a big Hall of Fame ceremony with rings and plaques and stuff to be forgotten about. It's shit that people need to physically go back and pay their respect to. And like I said, like, guys like Dusty Rhodes, you know, they were amazing talkers. You know, people can go back and learn shit from him. He's legends. Yeah, that's going to be my video. It's going to be one of the shortest ones I've ever done here at under 12 minutes. And I just want to know what the rest of you guys think, whether you discredit my logic or whether you're right on board with me. Let me know. Later.